Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dana. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to Hypnosis.
And Beyond. Today we have John R. Spender. He's a writer, publisher, educator, and movie maker.
Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear how did you become a guest on Hypnosis and Beyond? Give us some highlights.
I started out quite humbly. I was illiterate till I was 9 and 10, and so that created like a bit of a void early on in life. But that led me to NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and learning spelling strategies and learning how to use my mind and subconscious mind. And I ended up living in Bali, working for a US company, running trainings in Singapore, NLP trainings. And so that was part of hypnosis, Ericksonian hypnosis was part of that journey. And then I had a coaching practice in Sydney, and I hired a mentor, and she helped me move that practice online. This is back in 2013, before Zoom or any other sort of platform other than Skype. And so I ran the sessions on Skype in those early days, and she, my mentor, said, "Well, rather just be a standalone coaching program, why don't you have a book as part of it?" And that's how the Journey of Riches series got started, and I ended up transitioning from coaching a few years later into publishing full time, specializing in anthology books and also memoirs and expertise books. And we just launched the 45th book in the series, The Power of Trust, and I've sort of segued a little bit into documentary films. And so I've collaborated with Jack Canfield, Michael Bernard Beckwith, Kay Doran, Julie Bluin.
Lots of wonderful experiences. I feel like we could just talk about each one in and
Yeah.
of itself.
Yeah.
But I think that's what an accomplishment. 45 books in your series. Tell us more about that.
Well, yeah, so it just started from the idea that from this coaching program, the participants would actually then share their story and experiences of the journey, and then it just expanded and grew from there. After the first book, I was like, I'm never going to do another one again. It was so stressful, and it's maybe why I don't have much hair today. But it was. The book did really well, but it was just learning. It was kind of like jumping out of an airplane, just figuring out how the parachute worked on the way down. And I definitely bit off more than I could chew, and I was just, chewing really, really quickly. And I was like, I don't want to repeat this experience. And then when I brought on the next group, they were like, "What about the book? Like, are we not doing a book?" And people kept asking about it, and so we did another one, and then a third, and then after the third, other people, other educators, entrepreneurs, coaches, and whatnot, asked me to help them with their book series, and so I started doing that, and then a poetry book came about, and a memoir, and so expertise book, and so on and so forth, and I moved into publishing full time, and simultaneously was working on the documentary as well. So.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the documentary? What's the topic?
Yeah, so the premise is that there is a benefit to having challenge in your life, that it leads to innovation, focus, seeing, other side of the coin, being able to calibrate, rather than just focusing wholly and solely what's missing, that actually there is benefits to going through challenges, that there is a gift in adversity, that good things can come out of shitty experiences, and your worst day can essentially be your best day, and even the worst experiences that you wouldn't wish on anyone else, that you see that was there to serve you and that you grew from that experience. And so that's pretty much what the documentary explores over an hour. It's a full feature, and Jack Canfield shares a lot about his journey and insights, and Marcia Colossi, she's quite well known within Australia, and then you have Michael Bernard Beckwith, who's well known in the United States and globally, really. And so, yeah, just it really explores that, it doesn't matter what you're going through, even though it doesn't feel like a blessing, that, given time and personal growth and inner work and exploration, you actually can see the benefit. And life is ultimately for us. It doesn't feel like it when we're going through it. And often the gifts feel like they're wrapped in sandpaper. It can be quite challenging to go through it, but once you're on the other side, you can see why you had to go through it. So, and yeah, you can feel like, oh my God, like this is being done to me, and you can feel like a victim. But if you're able to transcend that and see the benefit and the blessing, then yeah, life just becomes so much easier, and you become better, right? Because I feel our challenges are testing us and asking us to step up and be a better version of ourselves. And if you, so yeah, that's kind of
Well,
the premise of.
I'm curious whether you noticed in talking to so many people about it, does there seem to be a length of time that you do need to sort of be able to have that perspective? Like, are you noticing any patterns of, I mean, I don't mean like 2 weeks and 4 hours, but that's specific. But I mean,
Yeah,
are you,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
when does
yeah.
that sort of rear view mirror perspective, are you noticing patterns with that?
Well, I mean, I feel the understanding that life is a journey, and sometimes it can take a really long time. My first nosedive, really, and I felt like a real victim, is when I lost my first business, my landscaping business. I had council contracts, Olympic game contracts, and I lost the business at the end of 1999. And it took me about 5 years to recover from that experience. And the blessing and the insight that I got was to really look within and develop a relationship with myself, with my inner child, and to live more holistically with the many different parts of ourselves, right? I had experienced, like a lot of people, some emotional significant events, and some that were really quite heavy and heinous in nature. And I had suppressed those, they were quite painful, and I'd suppressed those aspects of myself and build a brick wall around them, never to be looked at again because it was just so painful. I just thought, well, what's the benefit of looking at these painful experiences? I was a child when I went through those. I didn't choose them or anything like that. What's the benefit of even having a relationship with those aspects? And those aspects those parts of myself were unloved, unseen, and unrecognized, and began to rot and seeping through the cracks of that brick wall. And I basically, to handle the pressure of the business and things like that, I turned to recreational drugs, and so that was kind of my support system. And it's just not a very healthy way to support yourself. And and basically it forced me to look at those aspects, love those aspects of myself. And just really confront and face those experiences, ever so painful as they were, and to build a relationship and to be okay with that those things happen to me, but doesn't have to rule my life. And so, yeah, and that's an ongoing journey. It never really ends. I feel that is the blessing, that is the gift, because there's ever levels of expansion and growth and understanding. And I've personally been able to live a life with a lot more compassion, understanding, and empathise with people that are going through challenging times. I mean, as a coach, you want to be able to meet people that have gone through some really heavy things, dark night of the soul type of stuff, and you can't meet them if you haven't had a relationship with your own darkness, your own shadows, and been able to calibrate those, and to meet people where they are. And so I don't know if you ever want to move through things so quickly. I would say do the opposite, slow down, be with these things that are really uncomfortable, have a relationship with them, and make peace and see the blessing in them. And can take a long time. It took me a long, long time So if I were looking at it like a time frame, yeah, like I would years to be able to come to the point now where I can look. I mean, it was emotional, physical, and sexual abuse at a very young age, and so I felt like a victim for a long time. And a lot of that victimhood that I was experiencing and acting out was unconscious. It was deep in the subconscious. And so I didn't even know I was doing it. You know, you don't know what you don't know that you think you know. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time looking in the rear vision mirror, wishing things were different, and not living this present moment awareness and the gift that's really here in the present moment. And yeah, wishing my past was different, and if that person was different, or if that person didn't do that thing to me, then I would be okay today. And I feel that those are the signs that you're living in victimhood, and that can be a really difficult place to own because I was living in denial for such a long time. And so working with coaches, just really diving deep within myself and having a lot of support and outside help made it so much easier. And there was a lot of resistance, right? Because I had this model of the world that I was certain and believed in. And anytime, you know, a coach or a mentor try to even move off a pinky, unconscious resistance would come up. And that's why the tools of transformation, NLP, hypnosis really help, because you can come through the window and just help gently take a pinky off. And then another finger, you know, with your conscious consent. And that's really the benefit of having hypnosis, is that really aids the person to explore these deep reservoirs, a lot of cases of pain, but that's where the light is. That's where the light enters. You know, Rumi said it centuries ago, and it's so true. And that's why the work that you guys do, and a lot of, you know, that's why if you're going through an emotional significant event, you know, seek out the healers, the coaches, you know, the mentors and the seminars and the groups that are really supportive and conducive to you living more of a holistic life, and a life that you feel like you're the creator, or you even feel like you're becoming the creator, right? And that you're moving towards something, but a version of you that is able to handle ever greater amounts of challenge, because that's where the evolution and growth is.
So it sounds like resilience is a big element of where where a lot of your emphasis, you know, is.
Yeah, and compassion, you know, being real. I mean, yes, resilience is so important, creating resilience, having resilience to challenges and things like that. Because on the other side of challenges is growth. You know, comfort zones are beautiful places, but you know, the real growth is just on the outside of that, or just on the edge. And I don't mean that you want to have a tumultuous sort of life where you're always facing these challenges, but you know, let's be real. It doesn't matter what you do in your life, even if you've created this beautiful comfort zone and you just, you know, it's just so nice, and you know, you feel so safe and secure. Life is going to bring you some challenges, so you're going to have that growth there. That's just the nature of reality that we live in, you know, and I feel that that's the blessing of life. On some level, we chose to incarnate in this body, and we chose to have some challenges. And so resilience is a really good thing. It's actually for us. But I find also to have a level of compassion, you know, for yourself and for others. You know, be gentle with yourself as you're moving through your life. Give yourself 1,000 second chances. Give other people some second chances. You know, I'm not saying let them violate your boundaries and your sense of self. I'm saying, no, definitely have that, and walk away if that's being, you know, violated or disrespected. And, you know, that's you know, I definitely have some boundaries to respect yourself. But also, you know, give people some second chances if it's just small little things, you know what I mean? And give yourself, and be your own best friend, and be gentle. And I feel that that's very important. I feel like the word resilience I feel that that's part of it, and a lot of people maybe don't encompass that in their definition of the word. And so I feel like definitely living with a certain level of compassion, that everyone's struggling with something that we don't know nothing about it, and maybe they're not even aware of either.
Well, and I think too, the self-compassion is really kind of a theme that we hear a lot on this show, and just this over and over again, this idea. Do you think that humans are maybe not designed for self-compassion and it's a skill that you need to get, or do you think some people are more naturally good at it, or what's your opinion about self-compassion as a human trait?
Yeah, I feel it's something that you definitely need to cultivate. That I feel like innately when human beings are actually being human beings, like being human beings and not human doings, and are in the present moment, then naturally kindness and compassion will come forth. When we're not in that fight or flight sort of response, not in fear, not rushing, not stressing. A lot of these are just self-induced behaviours that are just imaginary constraints, right? I've got to get to work on. There's the energy buzzing around, from 8 to 9 a.m. anywhere in the world. If you go outside your house or, out in traffic or public transport, you can just feel this intensity, energy increase as if you were to go out at like 10 or 11, and the same in sort of the afternoon, things like that. And I feel like if human beings are being human beings, spending time in nature, spending time with family and honouring what really feels true and alive within themselves, then I feel it's actually a natural trait. It just naturally bubbles to the surface. But it's when we're in that, amygdala part of the brain, that fight or flight, that survival part, whereas then it comes back to what's your set point? What have you been cultivating? Are you able to actually catch that and come back to what's truly important to you? What do you value? And I feel like that. So I feel it's innate and it's a natural part of human beings. But there's also, if you're going about your day and you've got stresses and things like that, which most people do, then that you want to have some form of practice, meditation, self-hypnosis, whatever it is, exercising, walking. It just helps you be able to balance your brainwave frequencies, your emotional intelligence, and just really being able to come from a place of response rather than reacting. So.
I agree.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit more about the publishing aspect of things and if you're coaching at this point. So if you could just tell us a little bit about how that works.
Sure. Well, I coach, but it's just under a different umbrella. So when I'm working with authors, I'm still helping them, still using the tools of NLP, not so much hypnosis these days. And so with the publishing process, with a book, you're facing, especially if it's a memoir, they're personal stories, things can come up. And so just helping authors move through those aspects. And so we help with the editing phase, and also with the planning phase of the book, ideas and things like that, what they're going to write about, and getting that level of clarity before they begin. So then writer's block doesn't really come so much of it, because they're really saturated with their why, aligned with their values. So it's more like they're coming from a place of alignment rather than forcing it or anything like that. And so helping with the editing phase, going back and forth until they're happy with it. Then proofreading, typesetting, book design, and then also promoting. Over the last, we've been publishing now for over a decade, so we've got a solid team that I've been working with for quite a number of years now, and some almost right from the beginning. And so yeah, we're very boutique, so we're very hands-on. I read every manuscript and are very much involved in almost every part of the process. And and then promoting it and getting the message out there. And we have a loyal following of readers that love personal development books, so that's very helpful as well.
So the people that you're working with, the writers themselves, are they coaches, or it can be anybody who's
Yeah, many
interested
of
in
them
that?
are coaches, speakers, trainers, business owners, and we're in the wellness space, fitness space, holistic health, spirituality, mostly personal development, personal growth, that type of field.
And then you have this like sort of culmination of all these different stories into one book, and that's where you're at this 45th book that you've come out with. Is that a bunch of your
Yeah.
writers coming together?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
some of the authors that I've collaborated with before, but a lot of them actually it's their first time writing and a lot of them are busy within their business or practice, and so it's easy for them just to write one chapter, 3,000 or 4,500 words on a theme. And so the Power of Trust is the one that we've just released, just launched, and it's number one in 11 countries, and so United States, UK, Australia, Canada, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Mexico. So yeah, it's done really well, and yeah, and a lot of it's their first time. So we have like a panel interview style, and so just getting them to get comfortable sharing their message. It actually can be quite a big transformational experience of learning to write and share your message, and a lot of the message is quite personal experiences, things that they actually move through and beyond, and then some of the things, key principles that they help their coaching clients with, or whatever vocation they're in. And so, yeah, it's an amazing experience. It's the different levels of transformation and insights that you can gain just by sharing your story or aspects of your story, because when you just wholly, solely focus on it, you get to see it from a different perspective, and it's incredible. Often it's therapeutic. You get insights that, even if you shared it from the stage or on other platforms, sitting with it and writing, you get a different perspective again. And so, yeah, the feedback. We get a lot of authors come back a second, third, fourth, and we've got a handful that's come back 5 times. So, it's pretty
That's
neat.
fantastic. So people could just reach out to you if they were interested in pursuing something like that. Obviously, you haven't just started in this field, right? You've been doing it for quite a long time. So,
Well, for 10
in the
years now. Yeah.
yeah, and in the age of AI, where everybody thinks that they can write a book in 2 seconds, I think also having, the ability to work with people and, having that human feedback as well is probably very beneficial.
Yeah, and not having it, because the AI, there is a lot of people using AI, and the problem is that everyone's starting to look and sound the same. Yes, the stories are different, but the formatting style, and this is a professional book. It's not a book filled with social media type content posts. It's proper sentence structures, and then taking so we like to help authors actually. I find like AI can be really good training wheels, but then to help them actually write without the training wheels so much, and then we just hold the back of the seat, and then as they're pedaling, and then when they don't notice, we let go of the seat, and before they know it, they're writing by themselves, and so. Yeah, it's a lot more of authentic experience, and the readers get to really, because you can just so tell when someone's used AI. I think it's so obvious now, especially with the style, one-word paragraphs or sentence paragraphs, and yeah, so really just allowing the readers to see you and your essence, and that's a real gift as well. And then getting that mirrored back, with reviews and saying how much I really appreciate it, and just so not letting AI really suppress your soul, letting your essence come to the forefront is really what we focus on as well. And they're tools, and tools can be very advantageous when you use the tool and not the tool use you. So, and just getting that balance. So.
Yeah. That brings us to our next segment, which is our silly subconscious question. And our question for you today, Mr. John Spender, is what would be your professional wrestling name?
Professional Spang Dangler. Spang Dangler. My last name is Spender, and I'm actually quite long and dangly. And so a really good friend of mine, that was kind of like my nickname, Spang Dangler.
that was surprisingly easy for you to come up with. I love it.
I think you got in, but then he Spang Dangles out of the hole. So there you go.
I love it.
That's fun.
So beyond what we've spoken of today, is there anything you'd like to leave our viewers?
Anything's possible. Your dreams are possible. You're here for a reason. There is a mission and purpose that you're being invited to step into, and you're capable. You can do it. You can live into it step by step. You don't need to see that, as Martin Luther King said, you don't need to see the whole staircase. It's just that one step. And you'll be surprised that you probably have the right people within your influence. You're probably only 2 degrees of separation from someone that knows, someone that could get you started in this reality and mission. Sometimes it feels really scary and tender when you're birthing an idea and wanting to step into a new reality for yourself, but step by step, anything is possible.
Wonderful message. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
And of course, we hope you'll come back soon. And with that, Jen, what do we always say? Peace out.
Peace out.